There's a moment in life when you sit with yourself in silence and you realize something is not flowing. You've prayed, you've visualized, you've written down affirmations on paper until the ink dried, but deep inside, there is still that hollow echo of absence. You feel as though the universe is listening to everyone else, but not to you. And the question that quietly torments your heart is, why do I act? And why does nothing change? If this has touched you, it's because you've already carried the weight of trying and not seeing results. You felt the exhaustion of pouring your heart into techniques, into endless promises of abundance, yet waking up every morning to the same reality. You've looked in the mirror and wondered if the problem is you, if perhaps you are broken, or if maybe the universe has gone silent. But the truth is, you are not broken, and the universe has never turned away. What blocks the flow is not outside of you. It is an inner frequency, subtle and invisible, but powerful enough to stop everything you dream of from manifest. And this is where the path begins, because manifestation is not as complex as the world has made you believe. It is not about multiplying techniques, nor about shouting louder into the void. Manifestation, at its essence, is simple. It is a language spoken not by words, but by states of being. The mistake that most of us make, and perhaps the one you have been repeating unknowingly, is confusing the act of wanting with the act of manifest. Wanting carries the vibration of emptiness. Manifesting is the vibration of presence. And the gap between the two is the very distance you have been feeling in your life. I know how heavy it feels to live in that gap, to want abundance, but feel lack, to want love, but feel lonely, to want heal, but feel trapped in illness or fatigue. That gap is like an invisible wound that no affirmation alone can close, because it is not words that open the door of the universe. It is the state of your heart, the posture of your being, the frequency you carry even when you say nothing. So today, as we walk through these truths together, I want you to allow yourself to be seen, fully seen, without pretending, without the mask of optimism that sometimes hides despair. Let this be a space where you can admit, yes, I am tired of trying. Yes, I have felt abandoned. Yes, I have wondered if I will ever succeed in manifesting the life I dream of, because only in that honesty does transformation begin. And I promise you something, by the end of this journey, you will understand that the simplicity of manifestation is not a theory, it is a reality you can live. The shift is subtle, almost imperceptible at first, but it is there. You will learn to breathe different, to feel differently, to align different. And in that subtle shift, the door you thought was locked will open, not because the universe has finally decided to bless, but because you have finally learned to speak its language. So let us begin with the first truth, the one that almost everyone stumbles over, the invisible error that keeps so many souls in waiting, praying with sincerity, yet vibrating in lack. The mistake of confusing wanting with manifesting, because there, hidden in that small difference, lies the secret you've been searching all along. The invisible error, confusing wanting with manifest. There is a subtle tension that lives inside almost every person who seeks change. You wake up each day with a heart full of desire, whispering to the universe, I want abundance, I want love, I want peace. And yet, beneath the beauty of those words lies a hidden vibration, the vibration of lack. Because in the very act of wanting, you are unconsciously affirming, I do not yet have. This is the invisible error that silently sabotages even the most sincere prayers. Dr. Bruce Lipton has shown us that our beliefs act as biological switches. What the subconscious declares, the body obeys, and life mirrors back to us. If the signal you are broadcasting is, I am still waiting, then every cell in your being aligns with absence. The subconscious does not respond to your wishes. It responds to the state you dwell in most. And when that state is rooted in lack, no matter how many affirmations you repeat, the field around you only echoes back emptiness. It may sound paradoxical, but the harder you want, the further the dream drifts away, because wanting is a frequency of distance. Wanting implies that what you see is not yet here, and the universe, which only responds to resonance, continues to show you a reflection of what you are radiating. That is why so many live in the exhausting cycle of trying harder, pushing more, speaking louder, yet watching little change. The wanting grows, but the reality does not shift. Think of it as planting a seed in the soil. The moment you plant, the miracle has already begun. But instead of trusting, many of us dig up the earth every day to see if it has sprouted. That anxious need to check is what disturbs the natural unfolding. The seed cannot root in disturbed ground. In the same way, your manifestations cannot grow if every day you send out the vibration, not yet. So what is the way out of this invisible trap? It is not about forcing yourself to believe blindly. It is about gently switching states. Instead of saying, I want abundance, embody small acts that whisper to your cells, I already live in abundance. It may be gratitude for the simplest glass of water, generosity in sharing a smile, or even the posture of standing as if you already carry enough. These micro acts are not empty gestures. They are signals to your subconscious that the reality you seek is already in motion, because manifestation is not born in the loudness of wanting. It is born in the quiet sufficiency of being. When you learn to live as though the seed is already growing, when you water it with gratitude and instead of digging it up with doubt, the field responds. Life begins to mirror the presence you have chosen, not the absence you fear. And in that shift, what once felt so far away begins to appear at your doorstep with a grace that feels almost effortless. This is the first secret. Wanting keeps you waiting. Being opens the door. And once you see this clearly, the entire landscape of manifestation begins to change. Why your nervous system blocks what your mind asks for. There is a deep frustration many carry, the kind that eats away quietly in the background of life. You may have felt it yourself. You sit in meditation, you repeat your affirmation, you visualize the future you long for, and yet your body refuses to follow. Instead of peace, you feel tension in your chest. Instead of expansion, you feel the knot of anxiety in your stomach. Instead of clarity, procrastination takes over, leaving you paralyzed in the same routines. It feels as though your mind is reaching for the stars, while your body is chained to the ground. This conflict has been studied and described by Dr. Joe Dispenza, who teaches that true manifestation requires coherence between the heart and the brain. When these two are aligned, intention radiates into the field like a clear signal. But when stress hormones flood the body, coherence is broken. The body, instead of becoming a vessel of creation, enters survival. And survival does not create, it only defends, contracts, and repeats the old. This is why so many people the mind says, I want success, but the body says, I am not safe. The mind says, I am ready to love, but the body trembles with memories of loss and rejection. The mind says, I will create abundance, but the body, filled with cortisol and adrenaline, remains stuck in the vibration of fear. The truth is harsh but liberating. Your body does not manifest your thoughts. It manifests your dominant state. Imagine a radio trying to broadcast music through broken wire. The melody may exist, but the signal cannot leave the system. In the same way, when your nervous system is dysregulated, the intention you hold in your mind never makes it past your skin. It circles endlessly within you, but never reaches the field that responds to frequency. And so, even the most beautiful affirmations collapse under the weight of an incoherent state. But coherence is not as far away as it may seem. It begins with something as simple as the rhythm of your breath. When you slow your breathing, when you allow your heart rate to soften and your body to relax, a subtle shift takes place. The wires reconnect, the signal clears. For just a few minutes, the body and the mind enter the same rhythm, and in that rhythm, the intention you carry finally finds a pathway out. This is not about controlling every thought or forcing every feeling. It is about restoring harmony between the inner currents of your being. When your heart beats in calm rhythm and your breath flows steadily, the mind no longer fights the body. They become one. And in that unit, the universe listens. That is the secret hidden behind every miracle that appears effortless. Coherence. So the question is no longer, why does the universe not hear me? But rather, am I broadcasting a coherent signal? And when you learn to recognize the difference, you begin to understand why your nervous system, more than your mind, has been the true architect of your reality. The myth of more effort. Why ritual over cancels manifestation. There comes a point on the spiritual path when exhaustion sets in. You have collected techniques like treasure, filled notebooks with affirmations, vision boards with images, hours of guided meditations, and endless rituals intended to open the doors of manifestation. And yet, after all this effort, the doors remain closed. What grows is not abundance, but fatigue. What expands is not clarity, but confusion. Many carry this secret weariness, ashamed to admit that the more they try, the less they feel. Dr. Bruce Lipton reminds us that our cells are not persuaded by the volume of commands we send, but by the clarity of the signals they receive. Too many signals create noise, and noise cancels adaptation. The subconscious, much like the body, cannot follow 10 directions at once. When you flood your inner field with scattered techniques, The vibration that reaches the universe is not strength, but static. The message never arrived because it was never consistent. This is the paradox that so many seekers face. The belief that more effort will accelerate manifestation only deepens the cycle of delay. The more you push, the more you scatter your energy. The more you collect, the more fragmented you feel. Manifestation is not built by multiplying ritual. It is born from resonance. And resonance thrives in simplicity. Think of a GPS recalculating every few seconds, receiving one destination after another. Turn left, then right, then turn back again. The car does not move forward, not because the path does not exist, but because the instructions are contradictory. In the same way, when you change your method every day, affirmations today, scripting tomorrow, a new meditation the next, the universe has no consistent signal to follow. The truth is that one practice, chosen with intention and repeated with coherence, carries more power than 100 scattered attempts. The repetition is not mechanical, it is vibration. It is the steady drumbeat that teaches your cells and your subconscious to align with a new reality. When the practice is clear and the state is coherent, the field responds. This is where manifestation ceases to feel like labor and begins to flow like music. The body relaxes into rhythm, the heart settles into trust, and the mind finally stops searching for the next technique. And in that stillness, the signal becomes clear. What was once noise becomes frequency. And frequency is the language the universe understands. So the myth falls apart. More effort does not equal more creation. In truth, it often equals more resistance. What creates is not the quantity of your ritual, but the quality of your resonance. And once you grasp this, the exhaustion begins to dissolve, and manifestation becomes not an endless striving, but a graceful unfolding. The subtle saboteur, how dopamine tricks your manifestation. There is a fleeting high that many mistake for progress. You may have felt it when you discovered a new manifestation video, or when you wrote affirmations with fresh excitement, or when you listened to an inspiring talk that filled you with fire for a few hours. In those moments, everything seemed possible. The heart raced, the mind expanded, and you felt sure that change was finally on its way. But then, days later, the enthusiasm dissolved, the old habits returned, the life around you remained the same, and the cycle repeated itself. This is not a failure of your spirit, nor is it proof that manifestation does not work. It is the design of your brain. Neuroscience teaches us that dopamine, the chemical of novelty, rewards you with a spark of energy each time you try something new. It feels like movement, but it is only an illusion of movement. The system is satisfied with the excitement, but nothing changes in the deep circuitry of your being. The result is a kind of spiritual sugar rush, sweet for a moment, empty in the end. Many seekers live trapped in this cycle, confusing the rush of dopamine with the resonance of alignment. They mistake temporary motivation for lasting transformation. But manifestation does not answer to chemical highs. It answers to coherence, repetition, and presence. A burst of enthusiasm may ignite the flame, but only steady fuel keeps it burning. It is like eating sugar when the body is hungry. For a few minutes you feel full, even satisfied, but the body, in truth, is still starved. The nourishment never came. In the same way, the constant search for the next spiritual hack, the next quick technique, or the next burst of inspiration may comfort the mind temporarily, but it never rewires the deeper patterns of your subconscious. The real shit happens not in the chase for novelty, but in the quiet decision to repeat one embodied practice over and over until it becomes part. Science shows that it takes 21 to 30 days for a new habit to settle into the nervous system, for neurons to wire together into stability. And spirituality teaches the same. Frequency is built not by flashes of light, but by steady radiance. This is where the saboteur is exposed. Dopamine will keep calling you towards something new, something faster, something easier. But the soul longs for depth, not distraction. The universe responds not to your temporary excitement, but to your enduring vibration. And that vibration is only strength through consistency. When you understand this, the disappointment of fleeting highs no longer defines you. You stop blaming yourself for the fading of motivation and begin to see it for what it is: chemical trick, not a spiritual failure. And in that clarity, you find the patience to stay with one practice, to nourish it daily, to let it rewire your being in silence. This is how manifestation begins to solidify, not in the chase for more, but in the faithful return to less. The secret of silence. Why true manifestation often begins without words. There comes a point on the path where words no longer feel enough. You may have spoken affirmations hundreds of times. You may have written intentions in journals until the pages overflow. You may have declared to the universe everything you wish to receive. And yet, despite the sincerity of your words, the reality around you has not shifted in the way you longed for. It leaves you wondering if the universe has ignored you, or if perhaps your voice has not been strong enough. But the truth is not in the loudness of your commands. It is in the silence you have not yet allowed yourself to enter. Dr. Bruce Lipton reminds us that subconscious programming holds more power than conscious language. The subconscious does not listen to repeated sentences unless they are carried by deep emotional resonance. And often the chatter of the mind drowns out that resonance. Every time you repeat affirmations without coherence, you are speaking to the surface of yourself, while the deeper layers remain untouched. It is not the repetition of words that reprograms the field. It is the stillness in which those words dissolve. Silence is often misunderstood as emptiness, when in truth, it is the most fertile ground for transformation. When the mind grows quiet, when you stop demanding, when you stop asking, a profound recalibration begins. The subconscious, no longer interrupted by the noise of constant requests, begins to reorganize itself. Energy that was scattered gathers again. Vibrations that were fragmented begin to align. In silence, the field listens not to your words, but to your essence. Think of a glass of muddy water. Stir it again and again, and it remains cloudy. But set it down, leave it undisturbed, and the particles slowly settle. The water clears on its own. Your inner field works in the same way. Every time you agitate the mind with constant command, the waters of your being remain restless. But when you allow silence, the sediment of old beliefs settles, and clarity emerges without effort. This is why many who pray endlessly feel unheard, while those who sit in stillness often experience profound shifts. The universe is not moved by the quantity of your requests. It responds to the frequency you embody when you are no longer grasping. Silence carries a vibration of trust. It whispers, "I am already one with what I see." And in that whisper, reality begins to bend toward. A few minutes of silent presence each day, without goal, without affirmation, without demands, can do more for your manifestation than hours of repeated words. Because in those minutes, you are not trying to convince the universe. You are allowing yourself to align with it. You become the clear water through which light can pass without distortion. And this is the secret. Manifestation often begins not in sound, but in stillness. Not in the force of your speech, but in the quiet surrender of your being. When you learn to trust the silence, the universe begins to speak back in ways words could never contain. Closing integration and affirmate. As we come to the end of this journey, it is time to gather the threads that have been quietly weaving together. You have seen how the first invisible error lies in wanting, in vibrating in lack, even while asking for abundance. You have seen how your nervous system, not just your mind, decides what reality can flow into your life, and how stress can block the very signal you try so hard to send. You have seen how F multiplied without clarity only creates noise, while simplicity and resonance carry the true power. You have seen how dopamine can trick you with a temporary high, leaving you chasing novelty instead of building depth. And you have seen how silence, the most overlooked of all practices, becomes the sacred ground where the subconscious reorganizes and where manifestation truly begins. These truths are not just concepts to be remembered. They are invitations to live different. They call you out of exhaustion and into clarity. They remind you that the universe has never ignored you. It has only ever responded to the frequency you carry. And they assure you that the shift you long for is not far away. It is as close as your next breath, as near as your willingness to embody presence. I know that along your path there have been moments of loneliness, moments when faith seemed to dissolve, moments when you felt disconnected, perhaps even abandoned. And yet, you are here, you are listening, still searching, still carrying within you the spark that refuses to die. That spark is proof that your soul has not given up, and neither has the universe given up on you. So let us close together with a simple truth, one that you can repeat with your whole being, not just your lips. A truth that aligns heart, body, and mind into coherence. If you wish, let these words echo not just in thought, but in presence. I am aligned. I am coherent. I am already connected to the abundance of the universe. Take this with you, not as a mantra to be forced, but as a vibration to be lived. Let it carry you into tomorrow with quiet confidence. Let it be the rhythm that dissolves doubt and restores trust. And know, above all, that the universe has always been listening, waiting, not for louder words, but for the silent harmony of your being. Thank you for walking this path with me today. May presence, silence, and alignment guide your steps from this moment forward.